Innhance by Innov8 is an add-on containing small changes and added functionality for Sage 200. Over the years, we've developed small pieces of functionality for our many customers, and we decided to package the most popular or commonly requested features into a simple-to-implement add-on that allows you to make the most of your Sage 200 installation. Once the package has been deployed, this will add the Innov8 Innhance menu into your Sage 200 instance. First, we're going to look at the Innhance control panel. The first time that you open this panel, it will request for a license, and then we'll show you your license expiry date at the bottom. We can then see each of the various areas of Sage 200 detailed and the number of available add-ons in that area. If we expand the menu, we can see more details on what these functions are. We're going to go through these functions now and show you a little bit about how they work. Once a module has been enabled by simply going into the Manage Options or Innhance control screen and ticking the box to enable the functionality, you will then see the various changes active either on the menu or within the screens themselves. There are certain modules that allow for additional parameters to be set. For example, if you were to click on the on-demand backup, we require an admin to be set up in the SQL Management Studio that will create the backup and access the database. For things such as customer order number field or mandatory dates, there's a whole range of settings that can influence how this functionality works, and whether the mandatory dates are all dates, only certain header dates, or line dates, and you can customize these settings as required. Such as customer order number as well, where you can go in and say whether it's a warning or a force to stop somebody from posting a duplicate customer order number entry. Equally, should we allow a blank entry, and should we do any validation on dates? To use the add-ons within this package, we simply need to go to the relevant area of Sage 200 where they exist, or select the option on the side menu. The first feature we're going to take a look at here is our support portal. By clicking on the support portal option, this will open the Innov8 support portal within the main window of Sage 200. You can log in with the provided email address and password, and then manage your Sage 200 or Innov8 cases without the need to leave the software. The next feature we're going to look at is cloning a Sage company. This is useful if you want to create a test company or a backup company that you can then access and use to do any testing or historic lookups, for example. To use this feature, once the parameters have been defined within the Innhance Control Center, you simply need to go into the Clone a Sage Company option, enter the requested parameters such as the new database name, live demo test, and the Sage name, Innov8 demo test, for example, and simply hit the clone button. This will then take a backup of your existing company and create you a new company within Sage 200. You then need to go into Sage Administration to test the company, and next time you open Sage 200, that should appear in the list of companies that you're able to access. The next option is the on-demand backup. Similar to the clone company, this allows you to take a snapshot of the current Sage company without the need to have any database knowledge or leave the software. This is useful when doing important things such as month-end, year-end, or any point in time where the data may change and you want to be able to return to this point. To access the on-demand backup, just go into the option on the menu and hit the button to start the on-demand backup. The path will indicate where that backup will be taken. This is usually on your database server, so to get access to this file, you may need to speak to your IT provider. Simply hit the Start On-Demand Backup option and confirm that you want to create a new backup. The next time you run the function, you'll be prompted if you want to override the existing backup rather than creating a new backup in the file location. Moving on to some of the module-based functions, if we look into our invoice credit reference check feature, allows you to easily ensure that duplicate invoices or credit notes aren't posted into the sales and purchase ledger. If we look in the Enhance control options and go into our sales ledger or purchase ledger options, we'll see the invoice reference check and credit reference check functionality. We can click on any of these options and choose to set some of the further configurable settings within this feature. This includes things such as allowing a blank reference to be entered when saving an invoice in this instance, providing a warning or forcing a unique value, which would prevent the user from saving a transaction with a duplicate reference, and whether the invoice date should be used as part of the validation. This functionality enhances the built-in Sage functionality around reference checking. If we go and look to enter an invoice onto Abbey Retail, you can see our standard sales invoice form. Next to the reference and second reference field, there's these tick icons available, which in standard Sage 200 allow you to click on the icon to do a check of invoice date and reference or second reference, respectively. With Innhance enabled and the invoice reference check feature turned on, if we go to enter an invoice with a duplicate reference, we'll get a prompt that an invoice with the same reference has already been entered, and it will ask us if we want to continue. This is depending on the setting that's being configured within Innhance control. If we force unique, then we won't be given the option to continue, and we'll be presented with a message saying that the reference has already been entered, and it won't allow us to leave the field until a duplicate reference has been entered, or if we close the transaction. If we click on yes, we can just simply continue entering the transaction. When entering an invoice in Sage 200, the second reference can usually be just as important as the first reference. Where the second reference appears differs depending on where you're looking in the system, but one of the areas that the second reference is missing when Sage 200 is used as standard is within the nominal narrative. Those that run reports on nominal transactions or regularly use the nominal transaction inquiry will notice that they only see the account number and the reference field in here, whereas they may want to see the second reference information. By going into Innhance control, into sales ledger or purchase ledger, and looking and enabling the invoice narrative function, when we then go in and enter an invoice transaction and enter reference, second reference, we can then enter our amount and the transaction as normal, choose where we want the posting to be made, and save the transaction. We can then go and look at our transaction inquiry screen and see that in our nominal, the narrative has now been posted as our second reference field, compared to previous, where we would only see the first reference in our narrative. When entering a sales or purchase order, the user has the option of entering a customer document number or customer order number, or a supplier reference number when posting a purchase order. This field is unmoderated, so usually would allow for a duplicate or blank to be entered in this field. By going into Innhance control, into sales or purchase order processing, and enabling the feature for customer order number or supplier reference number, we can customize the settings to allow whether we get a warning or a unique requirement, and whether we allow blank entry or not. If we ensure that the setting is enabled for customer order number and will give us a warning, we can then go in and put a sales order on for one of our customers. Go into enter new order, select our customer account, enter all of the other related information and key in our customer order number. If we enter a customer order number that's already been used, we will get a message saying that it's already been used and the order number that customer order number has been used on. We can then choose whether we want to continue or not. If we choose no, we'll still be active in this field, and if we try and move away, we'll be prompted with the error message again. We could go and check that sales order number to confirm whether the order is the same or not, and if we are happy that it's a different order but we are using the same customer order number, we can click on yes and continue with our entry. Equally, if we try and enter a sales order with a blank reference number, depending on how our settings have been configured, we will get a message saying that the customer order number cannot be blank and requires us to input a unique number into that field. Another enhancement within the sales order and purchase order functionality relates to mandatory dates. If we go and look at the Innhance control options, we can see that we have a mandatory dates option here, which allows us to enforce requested and promised dates on header and line level for all of the sales order transactions. Once that's been enabled, if we go into an order and remove our requested or promised date and attempt to enter a line, we'll be prompted to populate the date before we can continue. Within Sage 200, when a customer account is placed on hold, any active sales orders can continue to be processed, including dispatch and invoice. Many businesses want to be able to control the dispatch of goods, especially when a customer may be on hold due to failure to pay for outstanding invoices or exceeding their credit limit. Within Innhance, if we go into the Innhance control and turn on the option within the sales ledger to manage the on hold update, when we then go into the sales ledger and attempt to put an account on hold in the account status area, we're prompted if we want to place live sales orders for this account on hold. If we select yes and then go to look at our orders for this customer, we'll see that any live orders have now been placed on hold. Equally, if the customer makes payment and the account is satisfied, or we want to remove them from hold, we can go in, remove the hold, and we'll be prompted if we want to make the held sales orders live. Press yes, and again, look at our view orders. Any orders that were placed on hold will now be released and can be processed. When working with sales orders and purchase orders in Sage 200, it's common that users want to quickly go into an order, view the record, and check whether a line has been allocated, dispatched, or invoiced. As you saw when I went into this order, I had to select the Show Quantities radio box, just to display this on a larger order. When working in sales order and purchase order processing in Sage 200, it's common that a user would want to go in, view or amend an order, and want to look at the quantities such as the allocated, dispatched, or invoice quantities. As default in Sage 200, when you go into a record, you are presented with the Show Values radio button rather than the Show Quantities button. Within the Innhance control panel, we can go in and enable the function for Show Quantities as default. Once this feature has been enabled, the next time we amend or view an order, we will then see that the Show Quantities is the default option, allowing us to quickly check the quantities without having to change the setting, and we can quickly review and leave the order as needed. Another feature that is contained within the Innhance pack is the ability to easily cycle between lines within sales order and purchase orders. Again, if we go into the Innhance control and ensure that the next previous buttons is enabled, when we go in to an order itself and we go onto a line, to move between the order, we would usually have to close out of this screen and move into the next item on the list. However, if we come out of the View Order screen and go into Amend the Order, you can see that if we go onto the line itself, we have the option at the bottom for Next and Previous. This allows us to easily cycle through the lines on the order. Within Sage 200, it's possible to copy the details of a sales order to create a sales return record. However, this functionality is not available within purchase order processing. With Innhance, you can go into the Enhance control options, into purchase order processing, and enable the function that allows purchase return, where you can see create purchase return from purchase order. Once this function's been enabled, you simply need to go into purchase order processing, go into an existing purchase order that you want to create a return from. And at the bottom, you'll see the Create Purchase Return option. By clicking on this button, it will create a return and present you with the number. If we go back and review our list, we can now see the created purchase return at the top, and we can go on to view the details. When entering or amending a sales order or purchase order, you may want to see the activity of a stock item without having to close the entire order line. By going into Enhance Control and into Sales Order or Purchase Orders, you'll see the option for Item History. Once this is enabled, if we go into an existing order and amend the details, at the bottom we'll have a new button for Item History. Clicking on this will open the Item History form commonly found within the Stock Control module and pre-fill with the item selected on the line. This allows us to inquire on the movements of the stock item without having to close out of the order, and allows us to continue processing or entering the order without any delay. There may be important information that you want to prompt your user regarding a stock item when entering a sales order or purchase order in Sage 200. By going into Enhance Control under Stock, we've got the option to enable pop-up note. Once this feature has been enabled, we can then go in to a stock item, navigate to the pop-up note tab, and enter the important information. We can then choose whether this prompts on sales order entry or purchase order entry, or enable on both. If I enable this on sales order entry and save my stock record, I can then navigate to my sales orders and enter a new order. Select my customer, go to add a new item line, and select my espresso machine. I'm prompted with this important information before I can continue to enter the line information. When creating a new stock item in Sage 200, you have to select the warehouse locations that you want this stock item to be available in. If you have multiple warehouse locations configured, this can be a timely exercise. Equally, if you forget to add these locations, the stock item will be made inactive until you manually add these locations. Within the Enhance Control panel, under the Stock area, we have a feature that can be enabled to add to warehouse. When we then navigate to our stock list, create a new item, and specify the product group. When saving the item, we will then be prompted if we want to add the stock item to all warehouses. If we select Yes on this, the stock item will then be saved with the stock available in all of the warehouses. We can see this by going in, finding our newly created stock item, and viewing balances. This screen will then show that all warehouses have been linked to this stock item.